Hello there, everybody. If you think I look like I live in a tree, it's because I haven't been awake for that long yet. So I haven't brushed my hair, I haven't put on makeup, even washed my face because I was like, holy cow, we need to discuss this as soon as possible. For anyone who is still unaware, maybe you went to sleep early last night and then you had to just go straight into work this morning. Mar-a-Lago was raided by the FBI. Mar-a-Lago is one of Trump's residencies. It's the residency he went to as soon as Biden had his inauguration and he had to leave the White House. So yeah, that's a huge deal. I saw it first hitting the news like around midnight last night, so I can understand why so many people haven't seen the news yet or don't know exactly what's going on. And that's why I thought it was important to come on here and discuss this, because this is a historical thing that's going on here. This is so incredibly important. No matter what political side you're on, it's important to discuss this, to look over it, to understand what's going on. And I noticed that the few people that were talking about this last night on like TikTok and stuff weren't fully comprehending the gravity of this situation. So breaking this down, for one thing, nothing like this has ever happened with a United States president before. They've gotten in trouble. People like Nixon have gotten in trouble in the past for doing things they weren't supposed to. Same with Bill Clinton. But neither of them had full-blown FBI raids of their personal home. They raided the house itself. They even raided his personal safe. And there's not a ton of details out just yet, but basically what is being said is that at least part of the reason there's the FBI raid is because of the fact that he stole classified documents when he was leaving the White House that he is not supposed to have, and that they are highly suspicious that he even went as far as to destroy some of those documents. We heard some murmurings of this a few months ago, but no one had like absolute solid proof of it yet. It was just kind of hearsay from people in the White House. Now we know it's an absolute fact. So right now on my screen I have Bloomberg up, and they're trying to report this at least somewhat live to the best of their ability. So I'm going to be reading Bloomberg off to you, and then we'll discuss in between each paragraph what everything means, because like I said, I think it's important that we break this down and everyone understands it. The search of former President Donald Trump's home in Florida was unprecedented, but bringing a case will be difficult. If successful, even the punishment would be open to legal fights. This is one of the things that, upon hearing this, I wasn't immediately celebrating like a lot of leftists are. I was very concerned from the jump as soon as I heard the news last night, because this is not going to be a simple matter. Trump not only has a lot of money, but even if you took him for everything he's got, he has basically the largest supporter base I've ever seen in my life for anyone. He has supporters who will give their last penny. They will go into massive debt just to ensure that his bills are paid. That is how incredibly brainwashed these people are. It's going to be very difficult with his lawyers and his money to take him to court and successfully punish him for anything. They're going to have to wait until they have absolute undeniable proof and amazing lawyers who can prove that there is no legal loophole out of what he has done. If you saw the Alex Jones case and how that ended, basically I was celebratory over that one because he's in the hole like $45 million. And while similarly to Trump, Alex Jones does have quite a few supporters who will gladly financially support him, $45 million is essentially impossible for him to ever make up. Even if his supporters were giving him donations every day, the likelihood of him ever coming up with that amount of money is near impossible. I don't know what's going to happen with Trump. I know a lot of people have been frustrated. They've been like, this is taking too long. But this first paragraph of Bloomberg explains to you why it's taking so long. They know he has the money and the means to wiggle out of this if he wants to. They have to make this airtight. Federal investigators on Monday descended on Mar-a-Lago as part of an investigation into whether Trump took classified documents from the White House when he left office, an explosive development that risks hanging over his possible run for presidency in 2024. Quote, I am not aware of any prior case where a search warrant was executed at the home of a former president, said Barbara McQuaid, a law professor at the University of Michigan and a former federal prosecutor. Even President Nixon received a subpoena for his recordings. The Federal Bureau of Investigation and Justice Department declined to comment. That's not surprising. I know some people are going to get a little spicy about that, but this is a current active investigation. They can't say anything for or against Trump right now because it will completely destroy everything they're trying to build against him right now. Evan Corcoran, I think, and John Rowley, attorneys who are representing Trump in talks with federal prosecutors about January 6, according to a person familiar, didn't immediately respond to requests for comment, and neither did Alina Habba, who represents Trump in other cases. Again, even on his side, they're not going to be able to answer anything positively or negatively right now because they're going to jeopardize their own case. So don't expect to really hear anything specific for several months probably. I mean, this might not even go to court until like 2025, 2026, for all we know. After working and cooperating with the relevant government agencies, this unannounced raid on my home was not necessary or appropriate, Trump said in a statement. While the search is uncharted territory for the U.S., it isn't a foregone conclusion that Trump is in serious legal jeopardy, said former federal prosecutor Jennifer Rogers. Quote, the bar for charging classified information cases is very high, and a Presidential Records Act criminal violation is unlikely for a variety of reasons having to do with the statutory language of the relevant crimes and the potential penalties, she said. Among those penalties is the prospect of any conviction that might bar Trump from holding office again. Mark Elias, the former general counsel for Hillary Clinton's campaign, called the incident a potential blockbuster in American politics. In a Twitter post, Elias highlighted the portion of the penal code that says those found guilty of the concealment, removal, or mutilation of government records shall be disqualified from holding any office under the United States. It isn't clear if the law would apply to a presidential run, but Elias wrote that having to fight in court over the question could be a major barrier for another Trump run. Now, this is the thing. Unprecedented is the key word in this entire thing because that's what this is. They've said several times this is the first time anything like this has ever happened, and the difficult thing about any kind of criminal case, when it's the first time it happens, there's not really substantial or specific laws for or against it. It's new. This being new is going to make it difficult for Trump's lawyers. It's going to make it difficult also for the opposing lawyers because each side is going to have to somehow prove that the other guy is worse than they are or that they're doing something illegal because we don't even know for sure yet if this is going to affect his run in 2024 or not because it's such uncharted territory. Even if disqualification from the White House is off the table, a conviction for mishandling government records and classified materials would still carry the possibility of prison time. The FBI search shows that investigators were able to get a warrant from a federal judge after a finding of probable cause that evidence of a specific crime will be found on the premises, said McQuaid. It doesn't mean that a judge found probable cause to believe that a specific person committed the crime at this stage of the investigation. That's another thing that the right needs to bear in mind. Trump, before leaving office, made sure he had the FBI and the CIA both in his pocket. He's got higher-ups there that are really chummy with him, so the fact that even they have to do something like this that works against him tells you the gravity of this situation because at the end of the day, no matter who they're funding, no matter who they're close with, they have a job they have to do or they get in trouble with the law. When the FBI conducts a search, they bring large numbers of agents so that they can search each room in teams and document the chain of custody for every item they seize so that they can testify in court about it later, she said. Regardless of the specific impetus for the raid, once the FBI lawfully enters a premises, agents may seize any evidence in plain view. It's not the first time that a criminal investigation has circled Trump. The Justice Department considered whether he obstructed the Mueller investigation into alleged Russian collusion with his campaign and ultimately decided not to charge him. His eponymous company was charged in New York State court with tax crimes. It is, however, the first time federal prosecutors have taken the dramatic step of securing a search warrant on Trump's home. The intrusion, done under the FBI director who was appointed to the role by Trump, comes as a former president is preparing to sit for a deposition this month by the New York Attorney General, a Democrat who is investigating the Trump Organization's asset valuations. That's another thing that I want to bring to everyone's attention. This is something I mentioned on my TikTok late last night. The FBI does not just completely raid your house for no reason. This is not the same as somebody deciding they don't like some Twitch streamer, so they have their house swatted. This is completely different. This had a warrant. This means that for months they were collecting evidence that proved that they believe something is absolutely in his home and that they absolutely had to check every square inch of that place. They can do it in front of him no matter what he's saying. It doesn't matter. He cannot stop them from fulfilling that duty. Given the high political stakes for investigating a former president, it's unlikely that the Mar-a-Lago search warrant was cleared at the highest levels of DOJ, said Mary McCord, a former head of the department's National Security Division, now at Georgetown University Law Center. Kevin McCarthy, the top-ranking Republican in the House, was among several GOP leaders who tweeted out that the incident shows the DOJ is being weaponized. He said U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland should preserve your documents and clear your calendar because a Republican majority House will conduct immediate oversight of the DOJ. The nonprofit Article 3 Project, which advocates for conservative judges, said presidents have the power to declassify any record they want. It's pretextual legal nonsense for the Biden Justice Department to pretend President Trump broke any criminal statute by taking 15 boxes of his records with him when he left, the group said in a statement. Former presidents have government-paid staff and offices, Secret Service protection, security clearances, and secure facilities to store classified records. So there's no legitimate concern that President Trump's records could have gotten into the wrong hands. Now, this is something we can unpack too. While this person is technically correct that yes, he does have things like paid staff and offices, Secret Service protection, everything like that, yes, that is true. It does not mean he couldn't have taken them himself. They're missing the point here. If they raided his home, specifically not a warehouse, not an office, it means something was inside his residence. He's not allowed to do that. If Biden did this, he would also be investigated. It doesn't matter what political affiliation, it doesn't matter how well loved or how hated the president was during their time in office. He did something illegal. As of right now, that's all that Bloomberg has on this. Everything is still kind of getting unfurled live. But for right now, I at least wanted you guys to be more aware of the situation at hand, what it means, what's going on. Just understand that if you are a leftist like myself, it's not time to celebrate just yet. While yes, it's wonderful that he is starting to face some kind of consequences for the illegal things that he's done, none of this necessarily means we're going to get what we want. He may not even be charged depending on who oversees this. So cross your fingers. Keep an eye out on the news. Keep an eye out on my channel. This is not the video I was planning on bringing out yet. I still have the scripted one that I'm working on, but I thought this was an important break in my usual content because this impacts the entire country as a whole. But until next time, do something that makes you happy today, as long as you're not hurting anyone else in the process, and I'll see everyone again soon.